Hi everyone, it's Josh with JE Vintage Minis in Orlando, Florida. This video we'll just go through a quick procedure of adjusting your clutch on these semi-automatic Honda horizontal engines that you find in a Z50 CT70 ATC70s. So this basic procedure, want to make sure that your engine is off, and you make your adjustment while the engine is off, and then you can test it once it's running again, but don't make these adjustments while the engine is running. This is what your these are what's inside the centrifugal clutch. These are Honda discs. I only recommend that if you're replacing them you go with Honda, because I've had other discs that are just not spec'd right as far as thickness goes and questionable material. So it's just best to go with the Honda and spend the extra $5 compared to what I see out there and get the OEM stuff. But this is the material that's going to wear on internally on the centrifugal automatic semi-auto clutch. This friction material. So as your pads start to wear together, this is going to reduce in thickness and require you to make these adjustments on the external right side cover of the clutch with this nut. So just give you a little visual, as these wear, they won't touch, and you're going to need to make adjustments that makes them come a little closer, and I'll show you how to do that. Real quick, we'll cover a couple symptoms that will help you decide when it's time to come and work on the clutch or make the adjustment. First one, obviously, if you're riding and you feel like there's some slipping going on, check your clutch, of course. Second example is actually a symptom of kickstarting. If you feel like you're kickstarting and you're just pushing through and it almost feels like nothing's catching, or low compression, it's just too easy and nothing's grabbing, clutch adjustment would be my first step for that situation. Maybe crunchy gears, come over and make an adjustment on your clutch. So let's get at it, and we'll focus on, this is the only area you need to be concerned with when doing the clutch adjustment, is that nut and stud. Alright, so I'll give, well, let me throw this in here. Again, if you start to have a slipping clutch and you don't know the history of this engine, it's the first time you got the bike and you're starting to work on it, you got a slipping clutch, make the adjustments here. But also, I would probably just drain your oil. We have no history of what oil was put in here. This is a crankcase that's filled with oil, and this clutch area is bathed in that crankcase oil. So these are wet clutches. These are basically saturated with the same oil that circulates through the engine. And there's a difference between motorcycle wet clutch oil and automotive oil. If someone's putting automotive oil in here, it's got a bunch of friction modifiers, which means it's just a slippery oil. It's going to make everything that it's coating much more slippery, and you don't want that. You want these clutches to be able to have friction. And the motorcycle oils and dirt bike oils that are wet clutch are formulated without friction modifiers. It's a JASOMA rated. That's JASOMA is the certification that you want to get when your oils, that defines it as a wet clutch certified oil. So change your oil out also and make your adjustment. So first situation is you've got a running engine and it's an older clutch in it. This is how you're going to make your adjustment to see if you can get the clutches to grab and actuate the transmission correctly. It's a 14mm nut, so you just have an open-ended wrench. Lefty loosey, righty tighty, turn it to your right, counterclockwise, loosen your nut, and then you have this stud that you use a flathead screwdriver in, and from its base setting where you're having issues, you loosen your bolt, and you're going to turn your stud clockwise direction. Maybe try it at about a quarter turn, at eighth inch to a quarter-inch turn in rotation, or whatever. Yeah, 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch turn rotation, and then lock it back down. make sure that this stud isn't turning when you're locking your nut, but make that nut fully locked down, and then start your bike up and see if you get improvement. If not, continue making the adjustments while the engine is off, and continue in the clockwise rotations at about an 1/8 inch rotation, and lock it down and keep doing that. You'll eventually feel, if you're continuing to do that and you're not getting any improvement, you're gonna end up hitting the lockout. It's fully turned as far as it can go clockwise. You're gonna hit the lockout point, and then if that does not resolve the clutch issue, it's gonna be time to pull the clutch cover and put a new clutch in, which I do have a video on my page. I'll put a link in the bottom of the video summary area. So that's step one. Or situation one. Situation number two, if you are putting a new clutch in, you've got everything buttoned up, putting your cover back on, I like to turn this nut as far clockwise as possible with your new clutch friction discs in, and find that lockout point. I just like to just go through this process, lock it out until it hits the resistance, and then I'm gonna turn it counterclockwise and bring it to its starting point. You'll feel some resistance at that point too. So as soon as you hit that resistance, turning counterclockwise, stop, don't go any further, and then you're gonna wanna turn it again about an 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch counterclockwise as a starting point, and then set your lock nut, and then start your motor and see how your clutch is operating. If it's grabbing too much, you can back it. You want to loosen this back up with the engine off and back it counterclockwise just a hair, and then lock it back down and see if you have reduced the grabbiness of the clutch. Some clutch are just going to be grabby and it will wear and ride better. But if you have any lurching forward at idle, you can on a new clutch you can back it out. Or if you make the adjustment with an old clutch and you start having lurching forward without giving it throttle, that means it's kind of maladjusted. So back it out again and get it to the point where you can idle your bike without it wanting to roll forward on you. But that's basically it. It's a simple procedure. Take your time, make sure the engine's off when you make your adjustments, and do small incremental changes to get you to the best clutch adjustment. But that's pretty much it. Instead of, I see a lot of people making comments on some of these forums that I'm on, and they think the worst, something internally, they jump to the worst situation where they think something internally is broken or something's going wrong with the kickstart, or compression is low and they need to do a top end rebuild. But I always say change your oil and start with some clutch adjusting and see where you go from there. Hope that's helpful for you guys. If you like what I'm making content wise, please subscribe or like. Appreciate it. Have a good day.